All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you, a huge thank you to all of you that are joining us live, and for everyone that'll be hopefully listening into the recorded version of this afterwards. It's really fantastic that you've made the time to join us today. It's been a real pleasure working with all the people on this call up until this point. You'll be introduced to everyone as we continue. We're going to go through a few presentations. Dean Marais from FNB is going to be speaking to us for a bit. I'm going to pass on to him shortly. He will introduce the FNB team that have been working extremely hard on this project to get us to this point. Also extremely grateful to have Shantelle Walters from Cotswold Downs and Natasha Strong from Gowrie Village joining us. They're going to be sharing some light into the kind of work that they've been able to do on their estates. And really, this webinar is a follow-on from what was discussed at last year's conference at Namibia, where Dean Marais spoke about some of the important aspects around the notion of shared prosperity, shared value, and the work that the residential community industry, a lot of the ARC members, a lot of the ARC partners are able to do, and to be able to work with the communities around them, and ultimately engage for a more sustainable and mutually beneficial future going forward. So we're going to have time for questions. All of you watching now, there's a Q&A section. You guys are welcome to post as many questions as you want. But I'm gonna be passing on to Dean Marais, who's been absolutely fantastic working with ARC in this project, and will continue to do so for hopefully a very long time. And it gives me huge satisfaction and a huge honor to pass on to Dean, thank him and his team for the work that they've done, and hopefully he can shed a lot more light on the nitty-gritty details that we hopefully are going to be able to engage with a lot of ARC members and other communities around the country going forward over the near future. So thank you again, everyone who's joined in, and I'll pass on to Dean now. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Thanks, Jono. Really appreciate those kind words. And it's really a pleasure for us to be with you today, with me and my team. On the line with myself, I have Kerry, who's going to take us through the educational development side of our discussion today. I also have Mags, who's very key to our Fundaba and our entrepreneurial development program. And then also Michelle, who leads up our Women in Business. So really today is all around sharing our experiences as FNB with yourselves. I just want to say that by no means are we positioning ourselves as having all the answers. I think today is about reflecting on what has worked for us, our observations, our experiences, and it's really about sharing these experiences with yourselves in driving what we all believe to be a core necessity in our environment, in our country, and in each of our different ecosystems. I think we all want to be positive catalysts for change in our communities, and it's really about understanding how we can drive the change in our different communities. I think there's also an understanding that each of our communities are very unique, very specific. So what happens maybe in one location where I live down in Ballito may not necessarily work in Nottingham Road, or may not work in Cape Town. So today it's very much a sharing exercise, and it's all around understanding how we help each other to really grapple with a very, how would you say, challenging task. I mean, we're all very aware from the experiences through COVID that we can see that certain of our communities were just not equipped to handle the crisis. And for us, I think for me personally, it was a stark reminder of the urgency to solve this problem statement, to answer these key questions. And I believe that ARC and its members are pivotal in driving this change. And we are really excited as FNB to be working with ARC and its members in any way, in any shape, in any form that we can offer and work with you to drive this change. So thank you, Jono. Thank you to the members. What I would like to do is, before I go into the actual deep initiatives with our specialists today, with Kerry, Michelle, and Mags, I just want to set the scene and maybe just remind you of some of the key principles that we discussed at the leadership conference. So just bear with me as I share the presentation and just start looking at it from the perspective of really how does this community stretch across South Africa. And if I had to really task you with putting your name in one of those key communities or ecosystems and reflecting on how you, at the center of that community or ecosystem, the influence and the impact that you may have on your surrounding community and the change that you can possibly drive as part of this broader interconnected system. We are definitely connected. Whether I sit here in my Belito home and my Belito estate, I am connected to the broader ARC membership community. And through us as a collective, we are able to drive this change. We always wonder in South Africa, we are a very small community and those degrees of separation are so small. And if these degrees are so small, it gives us the opportunity to then drive the biggest impact. And ultimately, that is the message around this connected system. When we reflect at this community at the core, and if we look back at the journey around what most, I would say, corporates have been on over the last 10, 20 years, we've really seen this maturity from philanthropy to corporate social responsibility, and understanding that at a certain extent, we haven't achieved the outcomes that we wanted. I think if we had to take it on the chin, looking at the COVID environment, looking at those very stark reminders of the poverty gaps, the inequality between certain communities and others, we can see that we failed and we need to look at a different model, a different framework. And for me, the shared prosperity framework is part of that journey. It certainly doesn't mean that we're going to reach our North Star, nor does it mean that we're going to solve all the answers. But it's starting to understand and evolve in how we can realize the benefits for all our communities through shared prosperity. And I think it was Francois Schoeman who, for me, articulated best what we are trying to do when he said collaboration can break down these wars to make the most of mutually beneficial assets and shared purposes. And I mean, that came from his observations when he was CEO of Peakenwood Estate. And for me, it really resonated around these central topics of how we can actually bring the estate resources to make sure we move beyond our wars into other communities that we impact and that we share our day-to-day living environment with. When we start understanding what positive change means and what we want to do, I mean, it really all comes down to how do we alleviate poverty and how do we address inequality? I think we understand as a collective and we understand as mature adults that in an emerging, growing country with certain political instability, with other key drivers around our finances, it really puts a lot more emphasis on us as participants in society to try and drive this change. And I think we also want to be part of this change. We don't want it just to be about government. It also needs to come from us as active participants in our communities. And what we're trying to do is drive access for our less previously disadvantaged members, and also our informal communities that sit across our borders, in looking at broadening our income and asset ownership, access to resources, more education and learning that will help our society to grow. And also, how do we then work together as the collective to enable this environment? And I think between the homeowners associations, between ARC as our key stakeholder, and then us, FNB, and we broadly see ourselves as one of the many service providers that contribute to the success of these estates. How do we collectively work together to be this catalyst for change? And how do we drive this key change in removing poverty and inequality? When we start looking at the principles about what we all want to do, and I think the key thing is to understand is there's no prescriptive or right way in which to deliver or achieve this outcome. Each estate is going to try and look at those different elements or different principles that resonate with themselves to get the best outcome in their unique community and their unique environment. And I think the other observation from my side in talking to estates, talking to active stakeholders, is that it's not a financial check. It's not about financial resources. What we are looking to do here is to leverage all the assets and capabilities between ourselves as a service provider and the estate. And that talks to what are the operational capabilities? What are the networks that sit within my closed community? What is the knowledge I can share? And then what are those broader opportunities around access that I can demonstrate and share with my communities to drive these outcomes? You start looking at those principles. I think the important part for me is always to understand the residential ecosystem and who are these active stakeholders, whether it be the supported broader community, whether it talks to the property developers, the homeowners, the estate management team, the directors, the landlords. There is a definite need to understand that to make this model sustainable and to make sure that we are prosperous and share this value, we must understand that value must be created and demonstrated to all our participants. So for me, that is just setting the context in what we are looking at. So I think the intent and the focus really for today was to share our experiences around these three key pillars that we've been working with Jono and the ARC team on, and really understanding where the best benefits that can resonate, whether it be the educational component, the more economic development, and then looking at the social development areas. So what I'd like to do is, I really would like to welcome Kerry, who heads up our shared value in FNB, and ask her to talk around her experiences around the early childhood development as one of these key opportunities or initiatives. So over to you, please, Kerry.
Morning, everyone. So I'd like to just cover one of the programs that we are currently running in FNB. It's a program we call it the ECD, the FNB ECD program, and basically this problem that we're trying to solve for is the fact that without access to quality ECDs, emotional and social and physical development of young children has a direct effect on their overall development and on the adults that they become. So in order for us to help encourage optimal brain development in the early stages of life, children need nutrition, safety, health, and early stimulation and love. And this contributes to the learning, problem solving, and forming of healthy relationships with others, and ultimately how they are able to contribute to society. And research has proven that early intervention, the earlier the intervention, the higher the return. So FNB has started this program of adoption. Please could you move to the next slide? And basically the focus of this program is to leverage our ecosystem of staffs, client, suppliers and partners to assist to bring together leaders and stakeholders that have vested interest in improving the ECDs in this country, and to provide a holistic view of the ECDs to enable collaboration and sharing of experience, knowledge and ideas. So the program looks to enable alignment around strategies in all regions of South Africa through adoption, maintenance and measurement. So basically, what we try to do is, well, what we have done. At the moment, we've got over 800 adopted creches, and these creches have been adopted by employees of FNB. And every creche is different, and every creche has different needs. And prior to COVID, the big focus was getting these ECDs registered. So, you know, if they are registered with the DSD as a creche, they get a grant which assists them to subsidize the food that is required in these creches, because a lot of children, their only meal actually comes from the creche that they attend. And so what we would do is have a look at what their needs were in order to get them registered so they can be eligible for this grant. Now that we've been hit by COVID, these creches have been impacted extremely badly. They haven't been able to open, and still, most of them are struggling to open because the requirements for opening are, the documentation provided by the Department of Social Development is quite complicated to understand, and the procedures and sometimes the costs of the requirements are quite high. So the focus now is on getting these creches open so that we can get them sustainable. A number of the teachers and staff have actually not received salaries since March. Next slide, please. So this is just some insight into what we've tried to do. The focus is to try and is one, on the children, and two, on building the creche to be a self-sustainable SME in its own right. And this is the process that we can follow. So basically identifying a creche near to where you live, maybe where your helpers' children go to school, somewhere where you believe that they could benefit from assistance. Engaging with the creche, sort of establishing a relationship so that you can understand, you know, where their struggles and needs are. Committing to support them and explain the type of support you will give them. We often find it's easier to do this in groups. So, you know, sometimes the needs are infrastructure, sometimes the needs are training, teachers training, but often it actually helps when there's more than one person adopting a creche, because the needs can be quite extensive. And then determining the needs, and this is where we can really help you, is to provide checklists which can help you to have a look at what is required by the Department of Social Development for registration if they haven't been registered, but also other things that sort of speak to a good learning environment. And then connecting with us as the FNB ECD team, just to give the information around the creche so that we can assist you with support, keep you updated on initiatives and news, and help you to track progress. And then the implementation of the support. So based on the identification of needs, connecting your ECDs with your networks to help them to improve the learning environment that they're providing, as well as their own business operations. And that's me. So I'll hand over to Mags.
Thanks a lot, Kerry. So good morning, everyone. Today I'll be taking you through a very specific tool that we've built in the last couple of years for FNB. And it will give you a good overview in terms of the direction that we're taking, how useful it can be, what it does, who can access it, and basically the impact the positive impact it can actually contribute to any form of business owners or entrepreneurs you have in your estate that you actually manage, or even potential entrepreneurs around your estate as well. Thank you. So cool, as I mentioned, so the tool is currently called FNB. That's what we've actually launched end of last year. It's currently accessible via the FNB app. It's available to all of our clients as well, free of charge. And the really cool thing with it is we kind of went one step above. Rather than giving you a typical delivery in terms of only one language, we actually looked at 5 different languages as well in SA. So you're looking at Afrikaans, English, Zulu, Xhosa as well. So it's been quite a few cool mixes around. So basically, now that you kind of have a good overview of what it is, how does it actually get consumed? So think of it as 4 different stages right through, right? We wanted to track or be able to guide the entrepreneur on a learning journey from the time they have an idea to the time they're actually growing the business. So think of it this way. In that incubate stage, that's more still considering what you would like to do. You're not too sure how to go about it, what business you would want to start in the first place. So it kind of caters for that side of the world. The second pillar that we then look at is the start pillar. Start is more around the formalization of the business. So consider you want to start setting up your business account. Should I go with a PTY or should I go with a partnership? So how do I currently structure my business in its current form? So that's the angle we use over there. Pillar number 3 that we looked at was this is your running. So this is you flat out, business is up and running. You need to worry about sales, your marketing, how to manage your cash flow, the difference between an income statement and a cash flow and how to work between the two. And in the last pillar, we actually looked at grow. So this is, think of it as you want to now start innovating. You want to start considering how to start exiting the business as well. Do you want to go down the VC road or venture capitalist road if you want to now scale your business? Now, the cool thing that we've done is we chose a very specific story as well, in the sense that we chose Lebo the Baker. So the individual just started his business, still very brand new, and we kind of track his journey as he actually progresses from just an idea of a bakery to actually having like an oven empire, for example. Thank you. Now, the cool thing over here is I mentioned before the different pillars that we looked at, right? So we have on the incubate, start, run, and grow. You're looking at idea versus opportunity, business plan, case, funding. On the start, as I mentioned, the whole governance and setup. On the running, it's more your traditional, like your as is running of your business, your financial ops, your HR, your sales and your marketing. And obviously in the grow, you're looking at innovation, optimization, mergers, acquisition, and scaling investor readiness. Thank you. So I've been talking about all the different kind of really cool content as well that we've had. Now the question is, how does this content get delivered to you right now? So it gets accessed via videos. So if you're like me, for example, you don't like reading like really long articles, you want to kind of get the crux of what the topic is all about and the content is all about. This is when you just watch a brief 4-minute video and it'll give you a good overview of an entire topic. Option number 2, if another example is if you're not too big into reading, you actually just want to listen, we've actually gotten all of the content in podcasts as well across 5 different languages. If you're more of a reader, you obviously have your short articles and your long ones, or if you're more of a visual person, obviously infographics come in quite nicely. Now, what we've done also is from a tools perspective is we've also provided the view that if, for example, you want to have access to a business model canvas or you want access to an income statement template, you name it. We've gotten over like 30 tools loaded on the platform. It's completely editable. You get onto the platform, you send it directly to your mailbox, and then you use it as much as you possibly want. And yeah, so that is what FNB is in a nutshell. We wanted to kind of introduce what the concept is about, show you that as a bank as well. We didn't want to provide, your traditional core banking services, but more, how do we start venturing in the business education piece? How do we equip our entrepreneurs to get better at what they do as well? One of the commonly asked questions that we get is, okay, cool. But if, for example, I'm in the service industry, right, you're currently covering the story of a product entrepreneur or product pushing entrepreneur. What if I'm in the service industry? The approach we took was it doesn't make a difference whether you are selling consulting services, for example, or you're selling tomatoes, right? You still need to understand who your target market is. Is there a product market fit? You need to still understand the basics of an income statement, the balance sheet, you name it. So that's kind of the approach. The content or the needs and the tools that we've used, they are very agnostic, irrespective of what you're trying to sell. In terms of who can access it right now, we've ring-fenced it for the time being to FNB customers, so whether you have a personal account or a business account, but quite soon we are going to be opening it to everyone, whether you bank with us or not. So yeah, I invite all of you to actually go check it out, and glad to actually get your input as well in terms of what worked and what didn't work for you. Thank you. That's from me from the Fundaba team. And next I'll be passing over to Michelle, who'll be taking you through the women in business world.
Thanks, Max. Good morning, everybody. First Rand's interest and investigation into the number of female-headed businesses that were banking with the group coincided with an approach that was made to us by the World Bank through the IFC, also wanting to understand what the landscape looks like for female entrepreneurs in South Africa, and also to provide us with funding in the form of a loan to First Rand Treasury that we could look at specifically lending to female-headed businesses. When we commenced this journey, the interesting thing is there's very little to no formal research as to what female entrepreneurs are looking for in their banking partner. So we engaged clients in various focus groups and at various marketing events and client entertainment events that we hold. And three main themes came through in the conversations. Surprisingly, the first one being that women wanted us to partner with them as far as the growth of their businesses was concerned. And what surprised us there is that it was not specifically related to funding necessarily. The next thing that came through is women saying that as a bank, we do not go out of our way to celebrate their successes with them. And what we had to take a close look at there is the various sports sponsorships that we have, and how do we actually go about including women in some of the events that we run and the marketing that we do. And then the last thing that came through is very much on a philanthropic basis, women saying, once I've achieved a modicum of success in my business, how do I go about, with FNB's help, paying it forward so I can be a positive influence in my community? So as far as growth is concerned, in addition to looking for funding, and I must please caveat this comment, and that is, unfortunately, we don't actually seed capital businesses. So an entrepreneur would need to come to us with some sort of startup capital to run their business. But what we are able to assist with, and Mags has very succinctly touched on it, is access to information. And the other thing was access to markets. So access to information, you can see we've done a lot of work around educating and advising startup entrepreneurs and those that are in the grow and run phase of their business around what it is that is possible and what you should be paying attention to as an entrepreneur. As far as access to markets is concerned, we have appointed champions in 32 of our regions across the country. They meet with the female client base in those regions on a fairly regular basis. We encourage them to swap business cards and to start doing B2B business with each other so that they can also network with and gain access to existing markets out there. We have also run some initiatives where we've got very successful businesses, often being run by our male counterparts, and they have at no cost been prepared to act as business mentors to some of our female-headed businesses, which has worked exceptionally well in terms of transference of skills. Then under success, I've mentioned we have actually set targeted amounts that we look to include female-headed businesses as far as any of the events that we are running. And you'll see, particularly during the month of August and in some of the financial publications, we have actually profiled some of our female-headed businesses so that we do highlight them and we can celebrate the successes that they have achieved. Philanthropy, I'm not going to steal my colleague's thunder. Prince will chat more around what FNB are doing from a philanthropy perspective, because often we have clients coming to us, particularly smaller businesses, saying, I want to be able to participate in corporate social responsibility, but I'm too small. How can FNB partner with me so that you can aggregate the funds that are potentially available, and I can also make sure that they are targeted in the right way, without fear of the money being sort of pilfered away and wasted. So rolling with the strategy we put in place, I've mentioned the regional champions. Unfortunately, it's still being Women's Month in 2020. Because of COVID, we haven't been able to have any live events. But just to give you a sense of the level and the extent to which we do normally aim to engage with female entrepreneurs, last year, via various events, we were able to engage close to 4,000 women on a face-to-face basis, with some very well-known speakers imparting their life stories and successes in life. Fundaba, I have mentioned, and Prince will come back to that. We've also run, and we continue to run, various industry sector-based webinars, where we are also imparting from captains of the various industrial sectors that we are addressing, imparting information that can certainly aim to support our female-headed businesses. And then lastly, in the FNB Business Advisory team, we have partnered with about 5 emerging fund managers to assist clients with putting BE capital structures in place. And most of the partners in those equity funds are women that we are working with. So wherever we can, we are making a concerted effort to support female entrepreneurs out there, elevate their profile, and assist them on their growth journey. And if you do have any further questions, I think from a practical perspective, if as a member of ARC, you are looking for a particular supplier to the estate, and you're wanting to target it as a female-headed business, by all means, be in touch with Jono and Dean, and we will certainly see if we can provide you with some names of businesses that can assist you with what it is that you're looking for. So I hope you found this beneficial, and I'm now going to hand over to Dean. Thanks, Dean.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Kerry, and thanks, Mags. Really appreciate that. I think for the audience, the purpose of just elevating those 3 topics was very much around the experience and our focus in FNB on those 3 topics. And we're happy to share further if there's any interest. What I'd like to do is also just reflect on a lot of the work that we are driving around enterprise and supplier development. The difference being supplier development is all around looking at your existing supplier database and understanding how you can shift and maybe pivot some of your procurement into growing small and medium-sized Black businesses. And then enterprise development is about looking at new suppliers, maybe those that aren't in your database, but ones in which that you can leverage skills from existing service providers and mentor new service providers. So there are always opportunities around understanding the introduction of these Black businesses into your procurement ecosystem and seeing how you can help your local communities. One of the key elements of why we asked Mags just to take us through the financial literacy and the Fundaba service and app was we noticed that many of the small to medium-sized Black businesses, when they are included in the procurement lifecycle, there's often a sense of failure just due to understanding and knowledge, definitely not intent, definitely not desire to meet their expectations. So FNB is really focused around that Fundaba platform to make sure that we get this probability of success around the enterprise and supply development topic a lot better. And we're able to go into more detail if there's any desire from the audience to engage us on that topic. I think the side and the last real pillar to these community initiatives is around the social development piece. And here I always look at some of the examples that I see in my estate and my local community. We talk to security, we talk to waste and landscaping. And if I always use the example that my homeowner association has used, is that sometimes what we do is it's sharing of resources. So the example I always use is where we ask our security service provider at the end of every day just to run a route up towards our informal settlements to make sure that our female domestic servants get home safely. We ask them to run a route at a time when the informal schools close and children are needing to get home, just so that we share the resources. And sometimes these small acts of community involvement go a long way to making the people that work in our estates feeling a lot more secure, and also seeing that we invested in their well-being. So these are definite benefits that are realized into their communities. Other opportunities around transformation that are a little bit more closer to home talk to the estate management team, looking at succession planning, looking at equity employment in their operational structures. And then also, please don't diminish the fact that a lot of the estate managers are very experienced and technical resources. They are able to impart a lot of knowledge to the body corporates around affordable housing that may sit within the periphery and within the broader ecosystems. So I really hope that we have demonstrated some of the practical community initiatives that, depending on your maturity as an estate, you're able to see, you're able to resonate with you, and then maybe apply. And by all means, please reach out to us that we can assist. The last topic that I'd really like just to leave with you as my parting sort of discussion topic is around the need for estates to understand what their flywheel is all about. Now, for us, the flywheel represents what makes an estate successful. What is that ongoing iterative cycle that makes the value creation demonstrable to their homeowners, their landlords, people participating in their estate? And we see it across these four key elements. One is around understanding what is that value proposition that you are delivering to your stakeholders. So is it a safe and secure environment that forces homeowners to want to go and live in your estate? Is it the opportunity for service providers to participate in your estate and provide high-level services to generate revenue? Is it the best place to work for domestic servants and employees? Once you understand what that proposition is, you can start seeing how those different participants participate in creating value and making sure that your estate brand is very strong in the community by delivering value, by delivering these realizable benefits that you can demonstrate and show to the broader ecosystem that you participate in. And then as an estate management team, how are you driving your service efficiency and effectiveness? So this flywheel is all around driving change, delivering value. But I think that the parting message for me is that you can make that flywheel self-funding by enabling service providers to participate and have access to your estate participants and drive more funds and investment that doesn't have to come around levies to drive your interests and to drive your shared prosperity outcomes. So that is something to consider, and we are here to assist and support you, whether you are an FNB client and whether you are not an FNB client. Our objective here is to get the shared prosperity in our ecosystems, in our communities optimal, and where we can all become catalysts for change. So thank you for sharing this time with us, and I would like to now hand over to Jono to take us to the next level. Thanks, Jono.
Thank you, Dean, and thanks to your team. It's been quite a fascinating journey over the past couple of years, dealing with each one of the individuals who just spoke now, and then Prince, who you're going to hear from a little bit later. And the amount of passion and work that FNB team puts into these initiatives is quite remarkable. There's two things I just want to touch on what was mentioned, and it summarizes the whole reason why we're running this webinar and why we going down this project. It was I think it was Michelle who mentioned one of the big issues is that organizations and individuals often don't know how to go about doing something like this, and it can be quite intimidating, and it can be quite overwhelming, and eventually a lot of these initiatives that had great intentions from the beginning often dwindle out just because of the enormity or the perceived enormity of the task. And Michelle touched on the fact that that is exactly what each of these initiatives that FNB are running from their perspective are able to do, and it's really just lend a helping hand, ensure that you're being put in touch and introduced to the right people to get each one of our estates and each one of our partners to a position that they want to be. And the second thing which Dean touched on was everything that we just saw now. That is things that FNB have found success in doing. It's not a prescriptive thing saying that each one of ARC members or each one of ARC partners need to go and do each one of these things. It's about finding something that was spoken about now that resonates with each one of you, that resonates with the strategy that your homeowners associations or body corporates have in place, and then putting your efforts into one of those. I think if you look at it in a holistic view and saying, goodness, doing every single one of these is going to be a full-time job, it doesn't need to be that way. It needs to be something that resonates with your vision, resonates with your model, and something that you and your estates and your residents can really get into and ultimately improve yourselves and your community around you. So thanks again to the FNB team that just spoke now. I think it gives nice perspective to all those viewers, and it brings us into the next part of the webinar, and a part that I'm quite excited about hearing from Shantelle from Cotswold Downs and Natasha from Gowrie Village, who are gonna spend a few minutes just speaking about some of the initiatives that they as an estate and as a community have been able to do, and this has all been done for many years. It's not really part of this FNB initiative, but we wanted to bring them on to show how doing these kind of things can really be something that is engraved into your estate's identity, engraved into your estate's strategic plan going forward. So we wanted to bring them on board just to shed some light about what they've been doing in their areas. So Shantelle is going to be speaking from a Cotswold Downs perspective on the Upper Highway area, and Natasha from Gowrie Village speaking about the Midlands, Nottingham Road area. So when they're speaking, it's really just to see what they've been able to do, and afterwards we're going to bring in Prince. I think Mags mentioned him, and he's going to be coming in and just speaking about how these initiatives are now actually put into context and put into a practical, practical, doable strategy based on the work that is already being done and the greater community. So I'm excited to hand over to Shantelle, and everything is going to flow from there. Shantelle and then Natasha, and then Prince will kind of wrap everything up to put everything into context and let everyone know exactly how these initiatives can be rolled out in your communities. So thanks again to the FNB team who have spoken, and I'm gonna pass on to Shantelle now to speak to us for a few minutes. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Jono. Yeah, I mean, as Cotswold Downs Estate coming through, as an estate itself, we were very slow in the uptake and getting involved in the greater community, and I've been here just around close to 3 years now. And over the last year in particular, we've, especially due to COVID as well, we've been exposed to a lot of opportunities that I think, listening to the earlier speakers today, where we can certainly harness in on those opportunities, and I really look forward to what they can deliver. But what I'm going to talk about is really what Cotswold Downs has done in terms of their humble beginnings. We don't have a great budget for social responsibility, but we certainly have a network of very capable residents, and some really willing, and some who are really very active in our greater community already. So it's really just harnessing onto those, and I'm going to expose you to some of the things that we've been involved with, indirectly or directly, and hopefully that can inspire people around us to get more involved and see that one small thing can lead into a much bigger thing. So one of the things when we started this spreadsheet, which has got nothing really to do with the talk today, but I had to have a chuckle when I prepared it. Someone said, what about the Eagle program? And all I'm going to say about the Eagle program is really that if you have a breeding pair of eagles in your estate, it really means that you have a very sound and solid and healthy ecosystem. And it really got me thinking around, how do we broaden that ability to create a healthy ecosystem beyond our borders. Our particular eagle pair, which is actually quite funny, is they actually breed every second year. But because they have such a perfect environment to breed in, they've actually created a second nest within our estate, and they breed every year. So they feed the little fledgling in the one, and then they go to the other one next year and they start a new baby, and then they go and feed the other one. So sometimes it just shows that if you can create a perfect environment, there can be an abundance out of the norm. So I just thought it was a nice story to open up with regards to, you know, what we can do when you create a good environment around you. So in terms of during lockdown, we had Nelson Mandela Day, and, you know, Cotswold Downs in the Upper Highway is surrounded by quite a vast rural community, and we have so many initiatives and opportunities in this area. One is, if I can show you, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor on the screen, but less than 1.5 km from our estate, we've got a lady that's started up looking after 2 or 3 children that had been abandoned. And over time, with various initiatives from our estate, in particular our members who have been very generous in getting involved, she's grown her children to 52 children strong already. And during Mandela Day, we got our community, our residents, to donate food and clothing and cleaning supplies, and it was really very well received, more than we expected. They had to come back a number of times with a bucky to come and collect, and if we'd known, we would have actually delivered. But as humans are, they delivered all 2 days before and not the month before as we asked leading up to it. So it was quite a very successful and unexpected support from our members. And it just shows if you can create the right environment, you do get that support. And that's right on our doorstep. There's just a photograph of the Tuletondo Children's Home receiving all their wares, and they're all small children. And I think, harnessing on with what we'd said, been listening to earlier, a lot of these initiatives that are in and around Cotswold Downs that we do get involved with are children that are still in preschool. They are really the future for us, and if we don't set those tones for them now, they're not going to be successful in the future because they won't have been exposed to what is out there. And, you know, we talk about food, creating a healthy environment. But as our leisure centre, being the golf club, we got involved with a company called Focus on Itemba. They are also on our doorstep, literally across the road. It's a foundation started by a gentleman called Donnie van der Heever. Him and his wife started it. It was all about growing children, growing healthy minds, healthy hearts, healthy bodies. and it's a NGO that he created to uplift the Imbo community that sits alongside Cotswold Downs. And that particular NGO we've partnered with a project called Project Joy. In fact, there was one prior to this called Project Bright. And what that really is all about is it's a creche that's been identified where there's 10, 20 children. There are not enough facilities for the children to have a healthy learning environment. The teacher isn't necessarily qualified as she should be. And what Focus on Itembe does, they take the teacher and they take the school and they take it under their wings, and they partner with a number of sponsors and so businesses in the community, Cotswold Downs being one of them, and they work with us to help raise, we raise the funds, and they get sponsorship from other partners as well. And together with those funds, what they end up doing is, this is the one that we've been involved with, Project Joy. It's just such an inspiring program that we got involved in. If I can show you at the bottom screen on the right, is the school before we got involved. The house was there, the lady lives there, Bonasiwe. To the right was a little shack or a little room, if you can call it that. She had a church in there, which doubled up as a creche. And if you see to the left of that, there's a big vacant piece of land that we identified as a perfect opportunity to establish a formalized school for her. Her little school was, in fact, if you look at the back behind the house, there's a little afdakkie there that's all rusted. The little children there used to sit underneath the shelter without proper facilities. And we finished the school during the course of last year. It opened up at the beginning of this year. And if you look there at the top right-hand corner is the new school. It was made from containers. It was covered with an awning. It's got a whole area where there's a jungle gym. And you can't really see it properly in the picture, but in the front of the school and to the right underneath the trees, they're actually creating a farmland where they're going to grow vegetables for the school. And the people that are going to grow the vegetables are in fact the unemployed parents who are going to be able to pay for their school fees by coming every day, nurturing and looking after that garden and providing the fruit and vegetables to the school in lieu of school fees. And in turn, they've been provided with the skill to grow and plant vegetation at their own homes, and thus creating an income source for themselves and their families as well. We raise funds through this initiative through a variety of ways. The one way that has really drawn the most funding was our hole-in-one competition. Basically, on our fifth hole, you pay 20 Rand to enter the competition, and a portion of the proceeds go to the actual prize of winning the hole-in-one, and another portion of the proceeds, a quarter of the proceeds, go to Focus on Itembe towards Project Joy specifically. In total, we have handed over 362,000 Rand to Project Joy to help build the school. And going there to see the development of the school, you can see on the right-hand side of the children, they're now with uniforms. Bonasiwe, the owner, standing in her new yard. And it's just been such an exciting project that we've been involved in. It's so tangible, and she's grown her school from, I think it was 20 children to more than double. She's been able to double her fees, which means her income has improved. She's been able to employ teachers. Focus on Itembe has undertaken to train everybody up to a certain level, so they train to teach children of that age. There's another company, Grow, that got involved, that sponsored the educational toys. And so it's just really been a very exciting project to be involved in. And as I said, it's less than 2-3 kilometers from our estate as well. And because of the success of the school, Cotswold Downs has partnered again with Focus on Itembe for another project called Project Bright, Project Star. And that's on another school that they've identified that's now currently in a wooden cabin. They don't have any suitable facilities. And we'd like to roll out a similar project at Project Star, and we believe that uplifting children and giving them the right tools to enter into the mainstream schools, providing them with a healthy food, it just sets such a tone for the communities living within our immediate area. Then in terms of our other initiatives that we've been involved in, you're talking earlier about contractors and service providers getting involved. In this particular sense, we raised funds with the Contractors Golf Day. We've sent these funds off to Crow, but certainly in terms of future projects, we could do more initiatives with our contractors and use the proceeds for other really exciting initiatives. During lockdown was probably one of the most exciting initiatives that I've been exposed to and partnered with. There's a lady that's on our estate, very passionate. She's called to a company called Revolution SA, and she's actually resigned from her mainstream job to dedicate full time to our local community and uplifting them, not only in education, but in food, in terms of love and support, in terms of even we forget about the trauma that a lot of these people go through. And she's working with the Valley Trust, who is entrenched in the Embo community and has a very large representation there. And they focus a lot on early childhood household development, children stimulation. We did a bucket, life buckets for a better word. You can see the lady in the diagram. We've sent out, I can't even remember how many hundreds of buckets into the community during lockdown. And the homeowners within Cotswold Downs donated funds for those buckets to be filled with vital food sources for the children. And over and above that, there's a home visitor program that you can enter into, where you can go down and visit the homes and expose yourself to the families and interact with them, play with the children. And it's very focused around children 0 to 5. And what they do is, the work is, it's amazing what they do. And unfortunately, they've lost in the last year 12 million rands worth of funding that they've received from various business entities around us. And that leaves a big hole. And we as Cotswold Downs would very much like to see what more we can do to try and engage and participate with this community and these projects. For myself personally, this is really just a last slide because actually it came very late on the scene. We found out that a housing development that was identified to be built across the road from our estate, if you can see it's enclosed with red. It was supposed to be sort of a lower income residential estate that was going to be developed. But unfortunately, due to various environmental reasons, they couldn't get the full benefit of that piece of land. And the owner of that land has in fact said they would like to donate that land to the community. Now, I mean, that doesn't come across every day. And I'm also sure you can realize having a big tract of land across the road from your estate, bordering onto the community, can be quite intimidating. But the chap that Luke Bales is who donated that land, and he said he would like to donate it for the purposes of a school and sporting facilities. And through the course of this last month, interacting with FNB and with ARC and listening to all the different initiatives that they talk about, I really thought if there's one project that I think that Cotswold Downs and FNB and ARC and all of us can get involved in that's going to be so tangible and meaningful for us. And I know that I can get my community involved as well because it's on our doorstep. It's for everyone's best interest in the long run, and is help try and get this vacant piece of land to a fully fledged school and sport facility. I have no idea how to go about it. I have no idea how to start it, but it sounds like I'm speaking to the right people, and I'd love to see how we can make this happen and take this forward. ARC, FNB, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak about Cotswold Downs. That's all I have on my plate for this morning. And I really do appreciate the time to present my estate and what opportunities we've been able to create and be involved in creating a better community around us. Thank you very much.
Hi, sorry, so I think it's me.
Sorry, he's handing over to Natasha Strong from Gowrie Village. My apologies.
That's okay. Thanks so much, Shantelle. Hi, everybody. Thanks to ARC and FNB for facilitating this and giving us the opportunity. Just to introduce myself, so I'm from Gowrie Village. We're a relatively small estate in the KZN Midlands. We have about 144 earths, which are mostly undeveloped. At Dean's talk by FNB last year at the ARC conference just really struck a chord with us. And whilst our estate, our homeowners and our board members are involved in a lot of local initiatives already, it did make us want to take a more visible role and involve more of our homeowners and certainly make them more aware of the initiatives around us and what happens in our community. This we've done mostly via articles, circulated writings in our newsletters, our internal Facebook page, and certainly forwarding any pleas or any requests for assistance from any of the local initiatives and NGOs that get sent out to us. We've just tried to become more active in creating that awareness within our owners, and just creating a sense of our own social responsibility, and that the whole concept of looking outside the gates, which we sort of want to try and engender within our homeowners in our state. Let me just, sorry, let me just, so put this on. So just to outline some of the local initiatives and Gowrie's involvement directly and indirectly, these are just some of the sort of local NGOs and organisations that are around us. All of these fall within a 20 to 25k radius. There's the Nottingham Road Community Police Forum, the KZN Crane Foundation, Midlands Community College, Wherever SPCA, the Michael House Community Partnership Trust, and then Nottingham Road Landowners, under which there are a variety of other organisations such as Nottingham Road Refreshed, Nottingham Road Tourism, and Nottingham Road Relief Fund. CPF, we have a very active role in our CPF. Our HOA chairman, Graham Balfour, and one of our other homeowners, Vishal Shagan, and myself also on the EXCO committee. We give practical support to the local station by assisting them with communications, running their Facebook page, interaction on media, and just being a facilitator between the general public and the station. In terms of practical help, we assist with maintenance. Last year, we redid the roof on the police station, which was in serious state of disrepair, upgraded the gardens. If there's practical problems with vehicles, such as getting lights fixed, punctures, tyre issues, often it takes them a very long time to get those things resolved through the state, because there's a big red tape process, and we try and assist them in getting things up and running and back on the road quickly. At Christmas time, we always do some kind of initiative for all the members. Last year, we gave them all meat packs. We organised Christmas presents for the children of all the staff. And then when COVID hit, we donated signage, made sure that the station was equipped with sufficient sanitizer, and that all the members were equipped and protected, certainly in times before the government had managed to galvanise themselves and get everything to our station. In practical terms, the estate does a lot of the admin, bookkeeping, and, as I said, sort of social media and communication for the CPF, and this is done at during the estate's time and at its own cost. Nottingham Road Relief Fund. This is a fairly new initiative. It was brought on by COVID. It started with feeding of children who would have been fed at school. For a lot of them in the area, this is the only real square meal they get in the day. And the concern was, with the shutting down of schools during lockdown, that a lot of these children would be going unfed and suffer from poorer nutrition, which would then ultimately compromise their immune system and make them more vulnerable. A lot of the food initially was donated by farmers and the community, and there was a community involvement drive. Then they have gone from feeding children to feeding now just on 3,500 individuals, and have extended to providing blankets, winter clothing, wheelchairs for needy individuals and communities. They are extending the initiatives. They now provide meal vouchers for bags of trash. The black bags are donated. And when people bring in the rubbish, they get a voucher that's redeemable at SPA. There are other growth initiatives run by Nottingham Road Relief. For instance, in Gowrie Village in Rosetta, they are getting the women to start a communal vegetable garden to feed themselves. Farmers are getting involved in cleaning and recycling projects that are ongoing. And the abandoned creche and development centre is currently undergoing renovation, and they're trying to get that up and running. and then in other surrounding communities, of which we have several, they're trying to get similar initiatives going. When this initiative got started, it's headed up by one of our homeowners on the estate, and the board was approached to offer some assistance. We decided to give them quite a significant donation to the project to get them off the ground and running. Overall, it was applauded by most of our homeowners. There were one or two naysayers, which gave us an opportunity to engage with them and explain our motivation and try and extend that awareness and care for community outside of our own gates. We've continued to support them mostly by sending in communications, updates, newsletters on to everyone. And a lot of the other local NGOs have got involved as well. The Crane Foundation donated a vehicle, the facilities were used for packing, Nottingham Road Tourism donated money even though they're pressed financially themselves, and certainly some of our homeowners have got involved in the day-to-day running and the physical packing and distributing of the foods. Right, then the sort of last initiative really that I want to talk about is Nottingham Road Refreshed. This one's quite close to my heart. I was quite involved in the initial setup, and it would sort of come under community initiatives, creates employment. It started in 2009, so it's quite a long-running success story, which is quite nice for a change. A group of concerned residents, where about 6 women got together. We were worried with the general degradation of the town, with the facilities, it's huge amounts of litter around, gardens that were messy and unkept. Municipality was under increasing pressure financially and as far as resources go, and that certainly hasn't changed. They have lack of equipment, broken equipment, and often don't even have the fuel to get up to us to bring equipment to maintain the village. So we decided to form an NPO, started by doing a presentation to the community, and started off small, just with general ideas on upgrading certain areas of gardens and cleaning up the litter. Started with 2 casual employees twice a week just to collect litter, and projects being run on a case by case as we had funds. We tried to involve local small businesses and certainly young Black entrepreneurs in the implementation of the projects. And today we permanently employ 2 employees and have for some time, and have sort of 6 to 8 casuals in summer when there's more work to be done. These are just some pictures of some of the work that we've done in and around the town. It's completely community driven and funded, and has been over the last 11 years. There's been no government funding. We do engage with a lot with local businesses and stakeholders, Department of Transport, Gowrie Contractors, and have basically taken over a lot of the municipal function within the village. We collect litter on a permanent basis, maintain the gardens, cut all the verges, keep the local soccer field cut and maintained for the community to use, plant trees along the roads. We do a periodic litter collection from the N3 to town, which is a stretch of about 10 kilometers. Last time we collected 63 black bags of rubbish, and a lot of clearing of alien invasive plants and overgrown areas within the village. Nottingham Road's main employment area is tourism, and certainly they employ more people within the area than agriculture, which is our main business. So for us it was important to keep the village looking good and keep tourism active and alive and make it a place we could all be proud to live. Gowrie Village helps in practical matters like watering, assisting with planting. We provide staff and help with the garden maintenance and clearing. If there's small projects and contractors, often we cover the costs of those, which are sporadic. And we're very proud to say that we're associated with the success story. A lot of other small communities have come to Refreshed and asked how to initiate similar initiatives in their village and get advice. And we will continue to support and be involved in the community and community projects like this. We aim to continue to grow our involvement and increase our awareness and within our state and around us. As I think we've all come to realize, we cannot live in isolation. We need to be continually looking outside of ourselves to others in need. I'd just like to thank everyone and leave you in closing with a quote that I came across. Not sure of the source, but when people understand how something that's happening today is building for the future, it inspires them to keep at it and to be realistic and have the patience that's needed to persevere until the goal is reached. Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to hand over to Prince now, as he'll follow on with his presentation from mine.
Thank you, Natasha. Good presentation from you, and as well as Shantelle. So what I'm gonna do, and the funny part is we prepared this presentation without having a discussion with Natasha. So what we've done is we've done a community mapping of the Gowrie Village. When we do the community mapping, we do a baseline assessment of what are the social development activities happening around your property, and we look at your stats essay, look at your municipal records, look at some of the university research or any research that has been done around that particular community, as well as the media reporting. For this particular exercise, we've only done a high-level desktop to give us an overview in terms of who are the communities neighboring the estate and what's happening around those communities. And when we do an assessment like this, what we usually do it in two phases. One phase is the desktop research, and the second phase is the actual engagement with the particular community. So we will engage with the property itself and then engage with the neighboring community to do a full mapping. But for the benefit of demonstrating how we can assist your estates to understand the communities around you and what is happening, we took a Gowrie Village as a case study. So it is situated in Nottingham Road. Through the stats SA, we picked up that there is an informal settlement which is quite closer to the estate, with a population of around 509 people based on 2011 census, and the population of the local municipalities is around 105. What was interesting in this research is that 32% youth unemployment, which is a big number if you compare with the average of the South African youth unemployment. And what's also concerning is the level of youth completed matric sitting at 15%, which tells you you've got a huge number of low skills and lower educated youth that are in that community. What we found as well is tourism is an economic driver, but there's a huge potential to grow it and use it to drive the local economic development as well as employment. In the development side, we identified that the Michael House Community Partnership Trust is supporting 18 schools around the area to improve learning outcomes, and they run a number of programs around food gardening, extra maths, English, as well as some IT studies. The Nottingham Road, Natasha spoke about it. We identified the relief fund, which was more prominent during this period, in partnership with the Michael House Trust. They donated over 160,000 rands, and the fund has fed over 3,000 people during these lockdown levels. Also, the Midlands Menu Education Project, which focus on learning outcomes and also runs environmental clubs for children who are interested in environment. The last one we've picked up is the Midland Manor, which supports emerging artists and craft projects. And the focus is to nurture them and help them in providing marketing opportunities for them to generate income from their activities. In this very high level research, we picked up that there's a huge potential around the agricultural land where an increase of employment can be derived from it. I think it's a question of how do we create opportunities to scale up agriculture? How do we bring in your agri-tech, hydroponics farming into this community to scale up the agriculture, because the land is already there. We also saw an opportunity for the estate to say, how does the estate play a key role as a coordinator of tourism activity? And in Natasha's presentation, that already comes into play, that there are elements of what she's already doing that drives the tourism into the area, particularly the refresh project that she's doing. So those things can be scaled up. What also is important is even though the tourism is a key economic activities, it's not the main driver for the local economy, and it could be because the bulk of the population don't have the right skills, don't have the access to the right resources to activate participation. So in order for you to be able to engage the community to say, how do you help you? We adopt a different model. So in a typical social investment approach, people follows what we call a supply-driven approach, where you as a funder, you decide, okay, this is where my money goes, and this is the service I want to provide to this community, and the beneficiary needs to live with what you're giving them. Our approach is different. Our approach is to say the community itself, it has a lot of assets in them. We use an approach called the asset-based community development approach, the ABCD. The approach recognizes that communities have assets, and the assets can be tangible or intangible. Intangible will be, they might have a skill that if harnessed, that skill can generate income and contribute to the economy. They might have an asset in the community that can be repurposed for the benefit of creating employment or benefiting that community. So the ABCD approach then goes deep, slightly different to say, firstly, engage with the people that you're trying to help. Understand what is it that they bring on the table, what is it that they can offer, and more importantly, what they see as help required to help to take them off their current situation. In most cases, what we found, people know how to solve their problems, and they know what needs to happen to solve their problem. All they need is enablement and assistance in doing that. So our approach starts from the community itself, create the right context, and the community will together with the community, co-create solutions that solve their problems. And then you can make an investment. Once you make an investment into that, the community have a closer affinity and attachment to whatever project that you bring in board, and they will own. And what we found is, even if there can be a civil unrest or a protest, that asset that they were part of creation, they protect it. They will never let it be destroyed, because it's not somebody else's property, it's their property. So this is the approach we apply, and through this approach we can assist your estates in your beginning phases to implement similar projects as the last two estates have presented. So from a philanthropy center perspective, we see ourselves as your partner in transforming your community. So we are able to assist estates through the whole process of social investment management, help you to develop your social investment strategy, develop solutions to achieve what you want to achieve, and more importantly, any social investment without an impact measurement, it's charity, or you're doing things just to feel good. You're not doing things to change people's lives. So for us, we treat social investment as a true investment. It has to show a return on investment, and a return on investment is the outcome that you want to see. So you have to measure it as you progress. We will also assist with the community assessment, applying the ABCD approach, as we said, and also in terms of your social investment, there are many ways of doing it. You can do it as part of your estate expense, or you can decide to say, how do I create a separate structure that can take advantage of the tax deductibility that SARS offer, and then we will help you set up that structure and also help you to get it tax efficient as much as possible, and also help with the providing your back office administration support from end to end, and critically as well, the money management piece, because as Shantelle mentioned, that she's got this piece of land that they want to develop, has been donated. She will be sourcing the donations from people, and if you have a tax efficient structure, those donations can receive tax certificates, Section 18 tax certificate for the donors, which encourage donors, and a tax structure that is set up correctly, it can be exempted from any taxes. Any development that will happen in that property will be done tax efficiently, and that tax benefit goes back to the community. I think I've summarized how we can help other estates to be at the level, or to kickstart what Shantelle and Natasha is already doing from an FNB philanthropy. Jono, I will hand it back to you.
Great, thank you very much, Prince, and thank you, Shantelle and Natasha. I think it's quite incredible the amount of work you two have been able to do with quite limited assistance, it sounds like. So big congratulations to you two, and thank you very much for taking the time to join us. And to Prince and his team, the work and the research that goes into this, even though it's on a very high level, the amount of data that it provides and the picture that it paints, to exactly like you said, be able to enable these communities that are either doing a lot like Cotswold and Gowrie are, or if you're doing nothing, that work that they put into it really goes a long way into enabling what you want to do, your desired outcomes, and to give it a little bit of structure. So yeah, once again, thank you to you guys. So that brings us to the end of our agenda in terms of what was planned to be discussed with the presentations. We're going to go into a few questions. It looks like the majority of the questions that were posed have been handled directly on the Q&A. The one that we receive now, are we as ARC looking for champions in other areas and other provinces? Absolutely, that is exactly the outcome that we want out of this webinar and out of this project. We chose to get Natasha and Shantelle onto this because we know and we are well aware of the amount of work that they've been putting into it, and we wanted to give an example of how a process would work. But our goal out of this is to do these case studies, is to delve deep into all of the areas across the country. We want champions in every corner of the country to bring the community together. We want to get estates that are close to each other to work together, to include all of the communities and pieces of land and any initiatives that are in between those estates, as well as using all of the current service providers and the new service providers that we can use, that Michelle and Mag spoke about earlier. So absolutely, and that kind of brings me to another question that I just want to raise onto Dean. So Irene, if you wouldn't mind just maybe getting Dean ready in the queue. Is really what the next steps out of this are going to be. Dean, I'm sure there's a lot more detail that you would like to go into when it comes to each one of the initiatives that we've spoken about. But ultimately, we want to identify these champions, and I would just like to hear from you to maybe put it into a little bit of a next steps on what the outcome from this webinar what we would like it to be, and just give a bit of information on the next steps going forward for anyone who's found some value in this. Thanks, Dean.
Thanks, Jono. So, I mean, firstly, if I can just say, this is a learning experience for FNB. It's a learning experience for all our different team members. It's just so lovely to be part of a team where I hear what Shantelle and Natasha are doing in their respective communities. I mean, you know, the reality is, as humans, as individuals living in different communities and regions, we're exposed to different challenges. We're exposed to different needs. So I suppose it's very easy to put a presentation up with blocks and you know, put their income, access, but the real value is where each of the communities apply their minds, reflect on the needs of that community. So we are very much in a learning phase. And today I've learned a lot from listening to Shantelle and Natasha, and I really appreciate their time and I commend them on what they're doing. It's just fantastic. So for me, it's really about, you know, we just want to be part of the story. We want to sit here in a year's time, 3 years' time, and reflect with ARC, reflect at the leadership conference with the members, and just say, guys, where do we start? Where are we now? How much more have we got to go? And really build this brand around the elite estates and be part of really pivoting, if you want to call it, this collective brand around estates of being just the haves, but actually being estates that are catalysts for inclusion, of bringing in all these other communities and being able to demonstrate to our peers, to our society, that we are a catalyst for change, and whatever resources that we have at our availability, we can provide, and they're relevant. I mean, I think the arrogance of the past, where we thought, oh, we're going to give a little bit of a financial check, or we're going to do this, and it's very notional. That reality we've learned doesn't help. It doesn't even scratch the surface. And I think what we're seeing is when you start seeing the definitive benefits that Shantelle and Natasha have demonstrated today, and also what we know a lot of the audience have demonstrated in their unique environments, you really see what the power is that we can harness. So for me, next steps, for those people that have found interest in some of the key experiences that we've been able to just present and expose today, FNB is here to support you. We want to help. This is bigger than being a corporate. This is just being about a participant in society. Also, those learnings we've got from Shantelle and Natasha, you know, on their behalf, reach out to them. You know, the part of this is not to pay school fees. Let's not waste investment or contribution on learnings where our fellows have already been and traded that path. So for me, please reach out to Jono, reach out to the ARC team. We'd love to come and workshop with you, your unique experiences. We'd love to share our specialists' knowledge, and where we can help, we can participate. So Jono, really, we're here. I do believe that if the members of the audience have needs, please if they can direct them through to yourselves, identify what the key topics are. Any questions, we'll provide our email addresses to Jono. We are fully open here, accessible to help in any manner and in any format. So Jono, I suggest we follow that course, and over to you.
Great, thank you, Dean. Yeah, couldn't have said that better myself. So that brings us pretty much bang on time. Doesn't often happen. So thank you to the FNB team who were working behind the scenes to get this all right. It is greatly appreciated. And to everyone who tuned in today, we really hope that you found value. Even though it's the end of the webinar, it is most definitely the beginning of the conversations going forward. Like Dean said, we wanna engage in any way that you can, or in any way that we can. So we'll follow this up. We'll publish the meeting summary. We'll publish the notes. We'll publish all of our contact details, and invite everyone just to get a conversation started. So to Dean and your team, fantastic work. Shantelle and Natasha, thank you very much for spending some time with us. It is extremely appreciated. And to everyone who tuned in, we hope that you found some value. And again, we invite you to start the conversation, and let's see how we can get this up and running in all of your areas. So thanks a lot everyone for attending, and we will be chatting soon again.